Hey, what's up you guys? Today I thought we could just take a little wander down memory lane and talk about some of the books that I read back when I wouldn't call myself a reader. I stopped reading in around 2010, and in 2010 I only really read manga. Like before then, when I was a child, I read so much, like constantly reading, and then I went to high school and just kind of stopped until 2019 when I made this channel. And during those years, I did read quite a few books, but yeah, 2010, for example, I only read manga. I read Death Note and Fruits Basket, and then some other random things. Those are the two that I really significantly remember. There was one called like Hack or something as well. And for Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative, this is a picture of me cosplaying as Light Yagami, and she said I should have brought this up in my Japanese video. She's right, I should have. So here's me. I'm going to show a little picture of me every year that I talk about just for fun. And I'm just going to talk about all the books that I read back then, if I reread them since, and what I thought of them at the time, what I thought of them now, if I have reread them. And hopefully it is interesting. So if you enjoy this video, please leave a like and please subscribe. And the first year we are going to talk about is 2011. In 2011, the only book series I remember reading was The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I read the books the year before the movie came out, and I remember doing a presentation for my English class because in Scotland, I don't know about everywhere, but in Scotland, every year in English, one of the pass things, what would you call it, like tests I guess, is that you have to prepare a solo talk. It's only like 5 minutes and you just present to the whole class. And I done mine on the Hunger Games, and nobody really cared at the time. Everyone was like, oh my god, he's talking about books, like what a loser. And then 2012 came, and the Hunger Games was like the biggest thing in the world, and I felt like a hipster. And I was like, yep, I told you all it would be good. Because I remember when I when I done my talk, I was like, yeah, there's a movie coming out, there's not even any images or anything yet, but it's coming. And everyone was like, okay. And you know, then it became a huge big thing. But yeah, obviously I love the Hunger Games. I reread them last year. I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I was the first person on the internet to get a review up. Thank you very much. And also, I don't know if I put it in yet, but here's a picture of me in 2011. It's probably not going to be a good picture. I don't know what picture I'm going to use yet, but I can just tell it's not going to be a great one. But yeah, I love the Hunger Games. I think it holds up so well. I literally remember reading them in like 2 days each. Back in 2011, I borrowed them off my friend Hannah, and then loved them so much that I bought my own copies, like, which I obviously never done during any of these years. Like, the fact I went out and bought my own copies is a lot, and I think it holds up so well. Like, when I read them last year, that was the main thing I said in my review, was just like, this series does not age. Like, it is so not just relevant today in many ways, but just timeless. I think this is truly a modern classic, and in 50 years or something, I do genuinely think that people will still be talking about the Hunger Games. In 2012, the only book that I really remember reading was Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. And if you're wondering what age were you in 2012 and why were you reading that, I was 14, and the reason I was reading it was because I was and still am a huge Lana Del Rey fan. Her first album, Born to Die, came out in 2012, and she made so many references to Lolita. There's a song literally called Lolita, and then there's one called Carmen, and then Off to the Races has like so many different Lolita like symbolism and stuff. So Lana basically influenced me to read Lolita at the time, and I have reread it twice since then. I read it back in 2019 in like January. It was one of the first books I read when I went back into reading, so that obviously shows like it made that impact on me. And then I am currently rereading it right now. I have 15 pages left at the time of filming this video, and honestly I should have just finished it before I started filming this video, but my mind is just not the most sane place, and I still love it. I still think it's 5 stars. At the time though, I kind of tweeted about this. I definitely was one of those people who, well, I mean, I was 14, so I was like, oh yeah, obviously it's like terrible, but it's kind of cute, like it's kind of romantic. And like now reading it, I tweeted about this, I was like, it is not a romance. Like any of the stuff that I, when I was 14, read as being romantic, now as a 23-year-old, I am like, this is more of like a horror novel than it is a romance novel. Like, I still tabbed at this time, and there's so many nice quotes and stuff that I like, but any of the nice quotes that are to do with Dolores herself, like ones that I know for a fact I would have tabbed back in 2012, now I'm like, that is so disturbing. And I really don't think I probably should have read that at this age. And I do think that Lana Del Rey and Lolita and those type of stuff really left an impact on me in probably not the best way, but I do still love Lolita. I think it's an amazing book, and I will talk about it a lot more in my Russian classics wrap-up that's coming. But yeah, Lolita 2012, probably not the best idea, but I do still think it is an amazing book. In 2013, I read the Maze Runner series by James Dashner, just the original trilogy. I hadn't read any of the other books. I don't know if the other books were out at this point, but I'd only read the Maze Runner, the Scorched Trials, and the Death Cure, and I borrowed them off my friend Caitlin because she was a big fan, and she was saying there's this movie coming out, and I know for a fact I read them before the movie came out. I don't know if the movie came out that year or the year after. She's like, there's this movie coming out, basically me with the Hunger Games, but like reverse situation. And so I borrowed them off her, and again, I read them in like 1 or 2 days each. Absolutely loved them, like flew through them. And I reread these last year as well. And I also read the other books in the series I hadn't read before. And as much as I loved them in 2013, I don't think these ones hold up as much. I still think the first book is really great. But the Scorched Trials, which I specifically remember being my favourite in the series back in 2013, was so bad this time. Like, I was reading it and every chapter ends with Thomas collapsing or fainting or being knocked out, and it's like James Dashner doesn't know how to end a chapter without doing that. And I just think that it wasn't as good as it was in my memory. Like, I really thought I was going to love it. I thought it was going to hold up just as well as the Hunger Games did, and it did not. However, I do think the Death Cure was still really good. I still think the first one is really good, but the Scorched Trials, the second book, was just not good. Like, I was trying to like see the good in it because I was like, I have so much nostalgia for this series, and I just like couldn't even admit to myself. I was like, no, this is pretty bad. So sadly, the Maze Runner does not live up as much as the Hunger Games does, but I still think they're a solid book series, and I still think that, you know, for young readers you're trying to get them into reading, I still think the Maze Runner is probably a really good series to give. In 2015, I went on a family holiday to Salou, which is a little place in Spain, and it's very lovely. It was a very nice holiday, and the book that I read there was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And I know people don't like when you talk about Harry Potter. Obviously, you know, I don't support J.K. Rowling, blah blah blah, but the fact of the matter is, I was a huge Harry Potter stan when I was younger. I was obsessed with the books. I used to spend hours on Harry Potter wiki just reading like random fact pages about all the different characters, and like characters that aren't even in the books. There's like Wikipedia pages for them because they're like briefly mentioned in like some behind the scenes thing, and I used to read every single page and memorize every fact. And I hadn't read Harry Potter in ages, I don't think. Part of me wanted to say that I reread Deathly Hallows around the time that the Deathly Hallows movies came out, but I don't actually know, so I didn't put it on this list. But in 2015, I know for a fact that I took The Order of the Phoenix on holiday with me, and The Order of the Phoenix was always my favourite movie and book, I think. Maybe not favourite book, but definitely favourite movie, because I was obsessed with Luna Lovegood. Like, the actress I was so in love with when I was younger, and I thought she was so beautiful. And then the character as well is just like such a quirky, like, old soul, and I just love those type of characters and those type of people. Like, she really reminds me of like Misty Day from Coven, like American Horror Story. And although obviously, which one came first? Obviously Luna came first. I don't know why I even asked that. But yeah, basically I was obsessed with Harry Potter, and rereading The Order of the Phoenix 2015 was so fun. I remember just like sitting up at night in the hotel, like reading like when everyone else went to bed because I could not put it down. And I do really want to reread Harry Potter, but I feel like there's no point right now because people don't like when you talk about it. And as much as I obviously read for fun as well, I also read to make videos. And they're quite thick books, like the later ones, so to read them and then not make any content out of them feels like a waste. But anyway, I loved Harry Potter. I haven't reread any of them since 2015. I do want to at some point in the future, but, you know, it's a bit of a sticky situation right now. And in 2016, I read 2 books. Oh my god, who is he reading 2 books in 1 year? The first one that actually I don't know what order they came in, but one of the ones I read was American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. And I read this in Malta on another family holiday. And this is the only book out of all this list that I have not reread yet, and I really want to because I remember being really enthralled by it. It is very disturbing, and I had already seen the movie like a few years before then, and my dad had the book, and I was like, you know what, I've watched the movie, I might as well read the book. And I remember really enjoying it, but it was obviously really dark, which I do like dark topics and dark books and stuff like that. And I wonder now if I would enjoy it as much, because at the time, obviously, this was the first adult book that I'd read. Oh no, I'd read Lolita, actually, that's a lie. But that was a classic. This was the first like more modern adult book that I'd read. And I remember thinking it was like so crazy, and I think it'd be really interesting to reread it at some point and talk about it on my channel, because obviously I remember like the plot, because I've seen the movie a couple times and I've read the book, obviously, which is the point in this video. So obviously I remember the plot, but I don't really remember much about like how the writing style in it is and stuff like that. I think it has a lot of references to like the 80s, if I remember correctly, and it's really culturally aware of like American politics and stuff. I think this is just me trying to remember what I thought like 6 years ago, so maybe this is all wrong, but I think this would be a really interesting one to reread this. And then the other book that I read in 2016 was Nerve by Jean Ryan, and I read this because the movie was coming out, which was starring Emma Roberts and Dave Franco, who I was a big fan of both, especially Emma Roberts. I used to, again, kind of like Evanna Lynch, who played Luna Lovegood, I had like a big crush on Emma Roberts. But yeah, I wanted to see the movie. I thought it was so good. Like when I seen the first trailer, this is one of those movies, it doesn't happen to me a lot, but it was one of those movies where I seen the trailer and I was like obsessed with it straight away. And it was because of like all the neon lights and like the whole Tumblr aesthetic of it and stuff like that. I was obsessed, and I read the book and watched the movie around the same time, because I think I got the book like just before the movie came out. And they have really completely different endings. Like they start off quite similar and then go in like completely different paths. And I actually reread Nerve back in 2019 again, I think, or maybe it was 2020. I don't know actually. I think it was 2019. But I remember not thinking it actually was that good on a second reread. I haven't watched the movie since. I think I've watched it again since 2016, but not recently, not anytime recently. And you know, it just didn't hold up as much as I was expecting, which was quite sad. I really enjoyed both the movie and the book when I first read them, but the book was quite childish YA, if I remember correctly, like the writing style. I feel like the content is a little bit dark, like the storyline and stuff goes to quite a dark place, but the way it's written read as like quite easy, younger YA, and you know, I like to be challenged a little bit in my reading. I like classics and stuff like that. So sadly, this one didn't hold up as much to me, but it was still really fun, and I think that if you have ever been interested in reading it, I would say give it a shot. But yeah, it wasn't like anything special, to be honest. I think the movie's probably better, which I know is like sacrilegious to say, but the movie aesthetic is just so good. Like I remember back on Tumblr when it came out, like reblogging all the GIFs and stuff, and like the neon lights, I was obsessed. But yeah, Nerve by Jean Ryan, it's okay. And then I don't think I read a single book in 2017 or 2018. Those were kind of like my crazy years. I was drinking far too much, going out and partying far too much, like 3 nights a week, sometimes 4. Like I did not have 2 brain cells to rub together back then. I was just off the deep end, but we're all good now. And yeah, and then I started my channel. No, my channel already existed, but I started like the book tour videos in January 2019. My first ever video was like a January wrap up right at the end of January. And I had set a New Year's resolution in 2019 that I was going to read 2 books per month, and I blew that out of the water, and here we are now. I've read like 58 books already this year, and it is the 17th of April, is that right? I can't read from here. I should have my glasses on, but I don't wear my glasses. And you know, that's where we are. So if you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane, hopefully it was interesting. I didn't plan a script or anything. I was like, you know, I'll just like talk about these books, talk about what I remember. And the only one I actually haven't reread is American Psycho, so I probably should do that. Maybe that can be a vlog, like just reading American Psycho, but then will people be interested in that? Who knows. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. I don't know why I keep doing this recently. I get so annoyed with myself when I'm editing, because I've started doing either this or like leave a like with an actual thumb. Like people know how to leave a like without me doing this. So yeah, leave a like or subscribe, or both actually if you want, and leave a comment. And I don't even know what I'm talking about. Why can I not just end the video? Why do I have to ramble and embarrass myself? Okay, I'm just gonna go now. Goodbye.